You're listening to Becoming More Me, the podcast for high-achieving entrepreneurs who want to be more and do less. And yes, that's a plane flying overhead. I'm your host, Theresa Levine. I am an EFT master practitioner, hypnotherapist, law of attraction coach, and energy strategist, here to help you make this never-ending journey of becoming one that you're able to get present for and that you enjoy getting present for. And today, we're going to be talking about all the crazy things that have been happening in this season of change. And I'm doing something that I've wanted to do for a really long time. So a bit of an experiment, and we will see how it turns out. I am actually recording this podcast while I'm taking a walk outside. So you may hear the sound of some cars passing by, some birds singing, some planes flying overhead, or passing a neighbor on the street. But I love the things that come through my consciousness when I am in motion. And that's another reason why I'm probably going to get myself a walking pad for my office soon. I already have a standing desk, and I definitely notice differences in my energy and the way that I'm able to work and even focus when I'm standing versus sitting. But movement just brings in a totally different element that I love. So if this turns out well, and if you don't mind me a little breathier while I'm walking, this could become a thing. And if it does, I promise I will try to get some kind of a microphone system that might make your listening experience a little bit more enjoyable. October has been one pretty crazy month for our family. And there have been a lot of big things that have happened. There's been a lot of sickness in our family, and we lost our beloved older dog, Latke, just a couple of weeks ago. And my husband was also in a car accident. And yeah, it's just, there has been a lot going on. And then simultaneously, I had a huge workshop this month on relationships where I paired up with two other amazing experts. And it was phenomenal and so uplifting. If you haven't caught the replay yet, definitely head over to my community on School. It's a free community. Just go to skool.com/discovery. Type in my name, Theresa Levine, and then you will see the Becoming More Me community right there. Once you get admitted into the community, you'll find the replay of the Magnetic Connections Attract Soul Aligned Relationships workshop right there in the classroom. So I highly recommend it for anyone, because it's not just about marriages or romantic relationships. It's literally about every kind of relationship. And that's really important, because our relationships feed into every part of our life. So when I talk to people about this, sometimes they're thinking, oh, I'd rather work on health or abundance or my career. All of that is backed by the power of your relationships. So they really are a focal point of every area of your life that you are trying to take to the next level or transform. So check that out. So that was a highlight of the month for sure. Another highlight of the month was celebrating my 16th wedding anniversary with Jeff. Now, unfortunately, our 16th wedding anniversary also happened right after he succumbed to the walking pneumonia that 3 of my boys already had before him. So that was the sickness part of the month, and that's definitely been a challenge. I have decided that I am not getting the walking pneumonia, so that's been canceled for me. And I also know that the work I've been doing on my health and with my bioenergetics practitioner, who I hope to have on the podcast sometime soon, has also made a huge difference in my immune system, among other things. It's made a huge difference in a lot of areas of my life and my health, but really a lot of a difference with my immune system. So I'm really hoping that I can bypass a bout of walking pneumonia. My husband has probably stayed home sick for less than a handful of days that I can count in the 18 plus years that I've known him. And he was home for 2 this week. It was just that bad. So, and my kids missed a decent amount of school too as they swapped it back and forth. So just imagine that as the backdrop, because the bouts of pneumonia and also strep throat have been hitting our house for about 3 weeks now. So I'm recording this just before Halloween. So for the last 3+ weeks, overlapping sickness, lethargy, lots of medicine, trips to the doctor, all of that kind of stuff, because over-the-counter stuff was just not working for any of this. And then, while my first son, Jace, was getting sick, and it was his birthday this month too, guys. Like, he was just getting over his bout of it, like just starting to on his 11th birthday. So I felt bad for him because he was sick, and also our dog died just a few days before his birthday. So that was a lot. And so we're all sick. Not me, and not my oldest son, because he's off at college and not so exposed to all of this. But lots of sickness in the house. And then we start noticing that our beloved dog, who just turned 12 last month, his name is Latke, like a potato pancake, because he was literally my gift to my husband on Hanukkah 12 years ago, was really slowing down more. He's been slowing down a lot in recent months and losing a lot of weight. But in the last couple of weeks, it was drastically noticeable, to the point where if you looked at him head on, his body kind of disappeared, and you could just really see his bones kind of splaying out, popping out, standing up. When he would lay down, he was a lot more tired, sleeping through people exiting and entering the house, where he used to get up and bark and be alert, just going outside a lot less. It's getting to the point where we kind of had to make him go outside. And he was skipping a lot of meals. So he wasn't getting his nutrients in that we were putting in his food to help him. He wasn't getting much sustenance. And he wasn't even really that interested in things that usually would really get him excited, like little bits of chicken or steak. And it got to be October 11th, I believe. And my parents were coming. My mom and my stepdad, Bruce, were coming for the weekend. And we were planning to go to Gettysburg. We thought that Jason was getting better. Little did we know, because he had been diagnosed with strep, but they missed the walking pneumonia, that he wasn't getting better. But he was a trooper for the weekend, and we still went and did all of the things. My parents came, and that night after we had dinner and we had given the dogs a couple little treats from the steak that we ate, Latke had an incident where he just threw up. And it wasn't like a normal, just kind of rejecting of the food, but looked kind of like coffee grounds. And then, of course, I'm Google doctoring what that means. And, it could be internal bleeding, could be some kind of dis-ease, could be so many different things. So I was like, this doesn't look good, on top of the fact that he's been slowing down so much. I'm going to turn around because there's dogs barking in this yard, and I'm sure you're getting a little bit of an extra audio experience that is not the best. So I could just feel intuitively that the end was getting near, but you also don't know. And I think this is the hard thing with pets. We have to try to understand things on their behalf when they can't talk to us. So my oldest, who again is off at college, but not far, he's only about 40 minutes from home at University of Maryland, I knew he would want to know. So even though we were planning to go to Gettysburg the next day and everything else, I called him and I just said, look, bud, I don't have any definitive answers here, but all I know is that Latke is not doing well. Seems to be declining. I don't know if we have hours left, days left, weeks left, or even months left. Who knows? Maybe this is just a bout of something and he's going to bounce back. But I did want to let you know because I know the dog means a lot to him. My 14-year-old and my 19-year-old are the two who have known this dog for the dog's whole life. And then my dog was around longer than the younger two, but been a big part of everybody's life. And so surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, I wasn't sure how he would handle the news. He was at the college football game when I called. He answered in the stadium and he was having a good time. Well, he left that stadium in about a minute flat, got in his car and drove home. And that just makes the tears well up in my eyes because he's just such a devoted, committed, thoughtful, sensitive young man. And all of my boys were just beautiful to witness through this transition and through Latke's passing. And yeah, I'll get to that again because I think that's so important. But yeah, he came home, set up an air mattress on our floor because that's where Latke sleeps. By that night, we were carrying him upstairs so that he could be on his bed, and he wasn't really getting around very well, and having to carry him outside for him to go to the bathroom. And my son slept there next to him, just crying and loving him all night long. And it was like beautiful to witness. And we got up in the morning and my son was supposed to have a first date with someone that day that he decided he wanted to cancel. He said, I don't want to go anywhere. I just want to be here with Latke. And, you know, if this person can't understand that, then it wasn't meant to be anyway. I'm just totally proud of him. And we ended up going to Gettysburg, which was an interesting contrast as you're getting ready to lose someone that you love so much, a beloved pet. And then you're hearing all the stories and being in the energy of all the loss of life, the revolution, the energy of it all there at Gettysburg. It was really something. And it was very profound in a different way, I think, because of what we were going through. The fall leaves were just starting to change, which to me always symbolizes letting go and nature's perfect understanding and knowing of when it's right to let go. And I just let myself get pulled into the energy of all of it, feeling the emotions, crying off and on throughout the weekend. And it was really a relief to know that Jaden decided to stay home, that Latke had somebody with him all day, taking care of him, loving him, giving him attention. We got home that evening and he still wasn't doing great. He was having some accidents and more vomiting, and things were not getting better. And also he did not seem uncomfortable. He did not seem upset. He did not seem disconnected. He was very happy to be touched and petted and loved and have attention and belly rubs and all the things that he's always liked. So gave him a lot of that. Slept again. I spent a lot of time listening to yoga nidra tracks about letting go, listening to binaural beats that reinforce my immune system because there was so much going on to combat there, it felt like, and listening to meditations on just acceptance and loss. And that was so very helpful to me as I slept and as I came into waking hours. And then Sunday, we were in and out doing different things and checking on Latke throughout. And Jaden stayed until the afternoon, and then he had to go back to school. And man, I don't know that I've gotten a hug that long or that emotional from him since he was a little kid, if it was even then. There was just he was so sad knowing that it was probably the last time he was going to see his dog. But he went back to school, and thankfully he had a comedy show to go to that night, and I think that was so important. And we got on with our day, and we tried to go out that evening to see the comet that was visible here, and we did get to see it, and it was pretty amazing. And then we came home, and Latke was right where we had left him, laying on a towel on his favorite area of our sectional couch, and still hanging on. And we all went over to him and said hello, and I remember having some conversations with him, just letting him know that, he was such a great dog, did so much to protect us and love us unconditionally, taught us all about unconditional love, and that it was okay for him to let go. It was okay for him to be at peace, that he had done more than enough, and that he would always have a place in our hearts. And I remember just holding his head and rubbing his head. And then I walked into the kitchen to get some supplements ready before it was time to turn in for bed. We figured we would need to carry him back upstairs again to his bed. And my husband and I always do some magnesium or vitamin C or something at night before bed. So I was getting that ready, and my husband went over to talk with Latke, and he just kind of looked at me and gave like a gesture, hand across the neck kind of thing, like, no more. And I was just like, no. Like, it seemed impossible that less than 2 minutes beforehand, I was right there with him, stroking him and loving him, and then he stopped breathing. And it was really quick, but it was also just so beautiful because, I was there, Jeff was there, Jonah and Jordan and Jace were all very nearby. We'd all gotten to say things to him before he went and have that experience. All through the weekend, my boys were talking about it. I just don't know how I'm going to do this, and it's going to be so hard. And we were reminiscing, before he was even gone, bringing up favorite memories, favorite little Latke-isms, sharing them, crying, laughing, everything in between. And I was just so proud of my boys, so proud of them. And my 14-year-old Jonah came over and just picked up his head in his hands and just told him what a good boy he was and how much he cared for him. And that was really sentimental to see. Jonah tends to shrug off emotions more. He's not the lovey-dovey I love you type, but he cares deeply about those that he cares for. And he loves that dog. So it was quite the evening. And yeah, I've never been more glad that my husband has been in lines of work where we have some body bags in the basement. Don't ask. But I was thankful that we had that, and we were able to put him in a body bag until we figured out what we were going to do, because we didn't know what our plan was. If we wanted to bury him or cremate him, what the options were. It all just happened so fast. But it was really for the best. I really don't feel like Latke suffered. And I felt like everybody got to say goodbye. My mom and Bruce are two of that dog's favorite people, and he got to spend the weekend with them. So it felt very complete. It felt very full circle. But yeah, it's just not something that you can prepare for. And then my kids haven't really ever experienced death up close like that. I know there were some misconceptions my 11-year-old, well, he wasn't quite 11 then, he was still 10. I remember him saying, "Oh, I've heard that when you die, all of your insides come out." And so after Latke passed, he kept asking, "Did his insides come out yet?" And, it's just so funny because when we don't talk about these things, when we don't talk about anything, this could be any kind of like elephant in the closet sort of thing. Like, how can people actually understand? Like, in his 10-year-old mind, he was waiting for literally all of that dog's insides, heart, liver, kidneys, intestines. He was waiting for all of those things to come out. And the reality was, it's just, kind of like whatever's left in the stomach, like poop and bodily fluids and things. And we were trying to explain to him that in Latke's case, he had kind of already gotten that stuff out. That's kind of what the 48 hours before he passed were. Didn't really eat anything, and he was just kind of getting rid of what was inside. So there really wasn't any mess afterwards. But when we don't talk about things and explain them, we make up stories about them. And so we were able to debunk that for him, and he was able to understand it better. Our 7-year-old just immediately got so upset. And I remember him just crying, like, if losing Latke hurts this much, then how on earth am I ever going to be okay if you guys die? About like me and Jeff. And I was like, wow, that's just, it's heavy. And it was right before bedtime. So bedtime was rough. Like, we all kind of just cried ourselves to sleep. And I just kind of decided, hey, I'm just going to give everybody a little grace tomorrow and see what happens. But the kids actually got up. They went to school okay, but I did let them know. It's like, hey, you need to come home. I'm here. I think you'll be happier being at school. It might even feel good to just share this news with people and make it a little bit more real in the sharing, kind of like I'm doing right now by recording this podcast. And they both seemed on board with that. Unfortunately, Jason's antibiotics were not actually helping anything because they weren't the right thing to treat what he actually had. So I got a call from the school nurse on Monday anyway, saying that his fever was back. And then I just picked up Jordan when we went in to get Jason because he had already talked to his teacher and said that he was just sad and he wanted to be at home. And yeah, so picked them both up. My husband was home because it was a day off. It was Indigenous Peoples Day that Monday. So we were actually just getting ready to take the dog to a pet crematorium that we found in the local area. So we all got to do that together. And, we took time like right after Latke passed to make some paw prints with paint on his paws. And then the crematorium was so sweet and they made us a bunch of clay paw prints so that each of the kids could have one. And those turned out really beautiful also. It was one of those things where I tried on Saturday to order some different keepsakes type things like on Amazon so that we could try to do these things before he passed, but he went too quickly. But we still ended up having options and they turned out beautiful. And I actually purchased some items to make some beads. So I'll let you know how they turn out, but I'm going to use resin and maybe a little bit of mica powder. And we have all these bags that the crematorium saved for us, these little Ziploc bags of Latke's hair. So I thought the boys and I would all enjoy some little commemorative beads with his hair in them. And he came back from the crematorium 2 days later in his wooden box with an engraved plaque. And yeah, the kids, oh, so sweet. The day that he died, actually, before he passed, they finished this Lego that I had given my 14-year-old. I think it was actually last Christmas, maybe, or maybe his birthday. So he'd had it for a while. Good morning. Hey, interrupting this episode super quick because I'll bet you didn't know that you can hop on a free, no strings, 15-minute call with me and get answers and insights into those things that are challenging you the most in your life and business right now. And receive several insights from me that will really help you to start moving the needle in those areas where you desire transformation, be it your business, your personal life, your health, wealth, relationships, all the things. So go to gamechangingconversation.com, select a time, and we will meet and have a conversation about what's going on in your life and the outcomes that you would most like to create in the next several months. Can't wait to meet you and chat with you on a call. Now back to the episode. All right, took a break to chat with my neighbor walking her dogs, and we ended up kind of rehashing the whole story that I'm telling you. Anyhow, the Lego turned out really cool. My son had started it and then he got bored with it. It was a mosaic maker, really cool Lego actually. And we had been making a profile picture of Latke's face before we even thought he was sick or going to die or anything like that. But then of course, this weekend that he passed, it became important and relevant again, and the boys all banded together and my mom helped and they finished it, and it was gorgeous. And they put his little name on it in Legos. I'm sure I'll share a picture of it somewhere, whether it's with this podcast episode on YouTube or with some posts I share on Instagram or something. But then when he passed that night, my son took it down off of the mantle, my 10-year-old, and added a little yellow halo at the top of his head. And that was just so heartwarming. It was just a lot of little things like that. The way that these boys shared their heart about this dog and their sadness and their processes. And Jordan wanted to do some EFT tapping. I gave him some guidance there. And I think I'm actually going to create an EFT tapping round for people who are in the midst of losing a pet or have just lost a pet. I know I did one before that you can find. I did it with Heather Greco from the Chaos and Cookies podcast when she had just lost her dog, and we were together recording it and worked on it in a private session afterwards. And it's actually right here on YouTube. So if you've been through pet loss, that could be a great place to start working through some of the emotions. And I'm going to create some fresh rounds based on my experience, but also general enough that I think they could help anybody shift the energy of what goes on when we lose a pet that is just that close to our hearts. So that was a big part of our middle of the month, losing Latke dog and commemorating his life. Even still, we're just really missing him. And I know I miss him in my office. He always kept me company. He was always on the chaise lounge that I put in my office specifically for him. And laying there, he would follow me from room to room. If we went downstairs to work out, he'd come downstairs and lay downstairs. If we were upstairs going to bed, he'd follow us up and get on his bed up there. And all throughout the day, if I was in the kitchen, he'd come lay in a sunny spot on the rug in the kitchen. If I was in my office, he would either be on the floor or on the chaise lounge, or sometimes he'd fall into a deep sleep, snoring and having an action dream like he was running, and he would wiggle himself right off of the couch in a dead sleep and wake himself up as he thumped on the ground. And that would always make me laugh hysterically and also feel really sorry for him. So, gosh, so many incredible memories with that dog, and just such an interesting feeling with him not being in the physical body anymore, although I sense his energy. And then, of course, trying to understand how our dog that is still here, Mowgli, who will be turning 3 next month, how he's navigating all of this. I can only imagine what a dog must think, because Latke was here one day and gone the next. And I don't know what he thinks happened, if he understands the passing of life, but that dog raised him from being a puppy, taught him how things work in our home, what was okay to do, what wasn't okay to do, how to fetch a ball, just so many things. And I could tell that he was grieving. In fact, he ended up getting sick and having a cough for a couple of days, which always seems so unusual in a dog. And then it passed. But I would imagine that he had a lot of stress and that his immune system was not functioning at a super high level. He also had probably about a week that his consumption of his food was very erratic, and he really wasn't hungry at meal times. He would leave a meal. So I know that he was grieving and feeling things in a way that we just couldn't quite understand at the level that we would like to. And then there's also the part where, because my kids would ask, they'd be like, what do you think Mowgli's going through? Or I think Mowgli's experiencing this, or I think Mowgli's experiencing that. And all I could really tell them was, we'll never truly know. We can be compassionate, understanding, and also recognize that a lot of times what you're thinking he's going through is your projection of what you're feeling being projected onto the dog. And it gave them an opportunity to be a little introspective about what kind of feelings they were still processing, recognizing that without it being some part of them, we have the law of one and the oneness that we all share. And without it being something that exists in them, they couldn't even think for it to exist in him. So we've had a lot of deep conversations, and it's been a month that I've been grateful that I have flexibility in my schedule. I've been grateful for all the blessings of being an entrepreneur, and also have had to just kind of put the brakes on a little bit to take care of sick kiddos, to take care of a sick dog, to be able to process the loss of the dog, to be there for my husband. As I mentioned, he had a car accident just like a week ago yesterday. And, it was one of those kind of accidents where I have no idea how he walked away without hardly any issues. He had a cut on his leg, a very, very sore chest. Every airbag went off. He said his chest actually bent the steering wheel. He got hit from the back. He was stopped in traffic. He was the last car stopped. He got hit by a car that decided not to slow down at all, going 45 to 60 miles an hour, and pushed into a large, commercial grade truck in front of him. And if he had been in a car and not in a pickup truck, I think the outcome would have been totally devastating. So I've just been in this state of just gratitude and awe for the way that things happened and the fact that he was able to walk away from it. And then poor guy ends up getting pneumonia a few days later. But I can only imagine that his immune system took a huge hit just trying to process the stress of losing the dog, managing our sick kids, handling an accident, and everything else. So there's just been a large load, stressing our mental, emotional, physical capacities this month. And I just want to honor that. And it's been a beautiful window into understanding ourselves and each other better. It's been a beautiful window into beliefs that we hold. I was able to uncover some new limiting ones for myself. And they had nothing to do with the things that happened, but the things that happened allowed an opening for me to be able to see things differently and perceive things differently. So, and I hope that some of that was able to also come through when we delivered the workshop last Friday, because I'd already been through all of this when we had that workshop. And then to be in the presence of two pretty new to me friends, Tyler Dudding and Joey Labossiere, who did the workshop with me, and to just be so grateful for that and for what we have built in our friendship and mutual respect and love for each other in the last 6 months. And then we're able to convey through this relationships workshop, it all felt so full circle. There were so many full circle moments this month, and I'm just so grateful. So thank you for listening to me catch you up on this crazy month, all of these things that have been going on. If you too are going through some craziness this season with sickness in your house or loss or just some chaos and catastrophe seeming to be upon you, then just know that you're not alone. And I always love to hear from you. Feel free to drop me a line. If you're in my school community, there's a lovely DM option over there that I love to talk with people on school. You can always shoot me an email, Theresa@TheresaLearLevine.com, or hit me up on Instagram @TheresaLearLevine. I love hearing from you all. I love hearing how these podcasts impact you, what you take away from them, what you enjoy about them. And in the instance of today's, let me know if the audio was tolerable. I know I had a truck pass me on the road. I bumped into a neighbor. There's been a few planes that have flown overhead. I've been stepping on some fall leaves crinkling under my feet. Here's some. Hear those? There's a lot going on. So let me know, was that a problem for you? Or did you actually like the experience of feeling like you were going on a journey with me and not just sitting at my desk? I will be grateful for all of your feedback and your input. And as I always say, there's so many choices that you all have when it comes to listening to podcasts. So I am still in that same energy of gratitude and awe when I think about how many people choose to listen to this podcast every week. Grateful for all of you. Love you all. Have a fabulous, fabulous day. Thanks for spending some of your precious time with me today. If you loved this episode, please leave a review or simply share it with someone else who would get great benefit from it too. If you share on social media, please tag me so I can personally connect and thank you. Until next time, keep taking bold and brave steps towards becoming more of who you want to be in this world. You are capable, you are worthy, and you are enough. And if your inner critic is still trying to argue with those facts, hit me up. We've got work to do.